no, I got nothing. No, I'm not going to be recorded. I see you.
Yeah, there I am.
There you are. Beard's looking good.
There I are.
Yeah.
Oh, I don't know. I don't know why I am. Oh, Barb's on too. I am Barb. Oh, I see that. Yeah.
Oh, I am Barb. That's who that is.
She doesn't get your emails. It's I am Barb or gmail.com. And
She does not get them?
Yeah, they only come to No Farmois. They only come to me.
Oh, well, she can sign up if she likes.
Yeah, she needs to. Well,
Yeah.
she gets my email on her computer too. It's easier for her to log in that way.
That reminds me, I need to change our sign-in form. I had people signing up for the wrong email list, so they're getting our promotional emails instead of our weekly emails.
Oh,
I will fix that. How are you guys doing?
very well. We're doing very well.
Good. Glad to hear it.
Buried in bookwork, trying to update all my employee safety stuff with COVID and
Oh, yeah.
Elle and I probably, I'm on their email list and I probably get from 3 to 5 emails a day of them updating their rules and website.
Oh,
And they're pretty mundane. The most interesting ones are the changes of rules they make for the adult entertainment industry.
oh.
I didn't know they were into that, but there are rules.
Probably some things you never thought of, and that's for the best.
Oh, there's safe ways to do everything, I guess, or safer ways.
I have a hard time imagining they're going to follow whatever rules they're given, but
Yeah, it's gonna fall on deaf ears.
so it's just what, an employee handbook for the whole state?
What?
Is it, so you're reading what, an employee handbook for the whole state?
No, what they do is they update their rules.
Okay.
And they just keep changing. They keep tinkering
Yeah.
all the time. Everything's more restrictive. Every day it's more restrictive and more
Sure.
work, more. So,
Is this only COVID or is this even before that?
no, it's everything.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's everything. It's
Got it.
yeah.
Howdy.
Today all day I was on webinar, well over 4 one-hour sessions about that Elle and I put on for farm safety. So
Okay, good. At least I had Derek here, so welcome. I know 2 other people will be joining us, but they said they might be late. And then there's a couple online here. And we'll give people, we still got 3 minutes. So yeah, I'll be back when it's time to start. And I need a better speaker. I may have one here that I can plug into.
Sheldon commented me or me.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, might be a little above his level, but he's still welcome to join us. We're fine. I understand that she would rather not do it.
Well, she doesn't know she wants to go home.
Hey, this card's finally paying off. Okay. Yes. So, what do you think? Today's not your day off, right?
No.
So, what time are you done?
5:30.
Okay.
Gives you just enough time to get home. Get changed.
Yeah, it seems a little loose. Oh, it seems a little loose. A little loose.
Hi, everybody.
Hello.
All right.
What's new?
It's Wednesday night. That's new, I guess. At least since last week. Trying to hook this speaker up so that the people here can hear better. Let's see. Yeah, that goes there, that goes there. This one. There. Guess those are the four. Howdy. Hello. Welcome. Take a seat. The handout is right here. And so you can grab one. There you go. And I know we'll need two more for Jenna and John.
Oh, Jenna's coming?
Yeah, but she said she may be late.
Okay.
So that's for them when they get here. Okay, let's try that. LE. I'm trying to hook this up. My computer's speakers are pretty quiet.
Oh, so you got Bluetooth?
Yes.
Who has the grandfather chiming clock?
Good question. There we go. Bluetooth. It should be on. Oh, okay. So maybe I just have to, yeah. So why isn't it going? Maybe if I select different speakers. Hello, welcome.
Hey.
Are you good with Bluetooth type things?
Simon.
You kind of know that sort of thing? You know how to do this when we, yeah.
How are you doing?
Long time no see.
I know. Where you been?
Here. Honestly, like literally figuratively.
Yeah.
Well, that's right. You're a helper now.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
How's that going?
So let's see, speakers,
The kids love me doing it.
playback devices, sounds maybe.
They don't like the cranky.
Playback.
Oh,
Oh, let's go with this one. All right. Hey, could somebody say something who's on Zoom?
Hello, test, test, test.
Nah, it's still
Hello.
through my computer. Huh, I switched it to that one. Oh, there, okay, I think I know what we need to do.
Can I give you a social distance hug?
I'm going to,
A social distance hug.
We can hear you very loud and clear, Pastor.
Anna.
How are you doing?
oh, I may have got it. Speaker. But that one. There we go. Now try talking.
Other half.
Hello?
Test, testing, 1, 2,
Okay.
3, testing. Can you
All
hear
right,
me?
now
We can hear
we could hear you until it burst our eardrums and yeah, it was effective. Thank you. And so we'll have to get, good. Well, sorry that took me a while to figure that out, but, and would you mind grabbing me a Bible too? I didn't get one. So, okay, I think we've got Pretty much who we had last week, plus a couple more people. Oh, who's over at the Dixons there?
I have to do the great-grandchild run back home, so Bonnie will be here.
Okay, well, hey, hello there. Nice to see you and welcome. Have a nice trip back home.
Oh, yeah. Let's go, guys.
Looking sharp there and Spider-Man mask. Ooh, you got one of those things, huh?
She's got a scooter.
Yeah, bummer. I mean, better to have something than nothing, but, you know,
Too bad you need one.
yeah.
Take my mask off.
All right, well, everybody ready to pray and begin? So first I'll say, thanks for joining. It's a little weird having some on Zoom and some on, real life, but it's kind of nice to see everybody here. And so, and the goal is to be done by about 7:15, and we don't have to go a full hour or anything. And we'll pick up from where we left off last week. So, dear Lord, we ask that you bless our study now. Be with us wherever we are. Help us to appreciate this amazing book we have with the book of Job, and to learn lessons about our own suffering, trial in life, and how to handle that when we are sad, or when other people that we know are experiencing distress and suffering. Help us to handle it well, keeping in mind the truths that you give us here. In Jesus' name, amen. Okay, so the title of today's lesson is The Worst Birthday Ever, and I think you'll find out why when we get there. But for review, we read chapter 1 last week, and here's kind of a summary of what we saw in Job chapter 1 on the handout there. The book of Job sets up a test case. The most something and something person on earth experiences the most devastating something in a way that is obviously from God. Yeah, how would you fill that in? Yeah, blameless and upright would be good. I would maybe add upright and pious or something, but there's many words you could fill in the blank. The key is he is an upright person, high moral standing. No one can lodge any complaints against him, and he is pious. Oh, if you need a pen, there's a box with pencils back there by the pencil sharpener, third thing down. Yeah, not everybody takes notes. And then, so Satan got this whole thing going by accusing Job, and what was his original accusation against Job?
He's protected.
Yeah, Job's protected, and how does Satan say he's going to prove that?
Back all his stuff.
Yeah, take away everything he has, and he will curse you to your face, is what he said. And God said, okay, but you can't harm his person. That was last time. We'll see that changes. And then how did Job, I should maybe have said Job's actions refute this accusation?
Oh, did he sin? He said, God gives, the Lord gives, the Lord takes away.
Yeah, blessed be the name of the Lord. So he did not curse God to his face. In fact, he blessed the name of the Lord. So that shows us that Satan was proved wrong. So the book could have ended there, and I guess we would have learned a little lesson, but there's a lot more to happen. And so we continue now with chapter 2, and the first 10 verses. It's kind of a long section. Does anybody want to read it? And we can have a online or a live person. Well, you're alive too. You know what I mean. An online or a non-line person read. Doesn't matter. Oh, that's a volunteer?
Yes.
Oh, no, from Simon.
No, that was a good pun.
Good pun. Okay, yeah. All right. Anna Barton's reading. If it's too quiet, just follow along.
Chapter 2 till where?
1 to 10.
On another day, the angels came to present themselves to the Lord, and Satan also came with them to present himself before him. And the Lord said to Satan, "Where have you come from?" Satan answered the Lord, "From roaming throughout the earth, going back and forth on it." Then the Lord said to Satan, "Have you considered my servant Job? There is no one on earth like him. He is blameless and upright, a man who fears God and shuns evil. And he still maintains his integrity, though you incited me against him to ruin him without any reason." "Skin for skin," replied Satan. A man will give all he has for his own life, but now stretch out your hand and strike his flesh and bones, and he will surely curse you to your face. The Lord said to Satan, very well, then, he is in your hands, but you must spare his life. So Satan went out from the presence of the Lord and afflicted Job with painful sores from the soles of his feet to the crown of his head. Then Job took a piece of broken pottery and scraped himself with it as he sat among the ashes. His wife said to him, are you still maintaining your integrity? Curse God and die. He replied, you are talking like a foolish woman. Shall we accept good from God and not trouble? In all this, Job did not sin in what he said.
Okay, thank you. And I have a bunch of questions here. So first of all, this is similar to chapter 1, what we saw last week, but now there's a couple differences. So do you notice any of the key differences here?
Painful sores.
Yeah, so his punishment, or not really punishment, his affliction is now personal. And so that is different than losing all the stuff he had. Of course, there's nothing really left to lose except for 4 servants and his wife. And, you know, that Satan didn't have permission to do that, I guess. Any other differences you see? Yeah.
That he had his wife basically encouraging him to sin at this point.
Yeah. So she's had enough. She thinks he ought to just die. And I guess that's often taken as commit suicide, or it could just be, you know, you're close to death, give up hope, you know, stop trying to serve God. Anything else?
You see his wife weigh in on the first series of events.
Yeah, I mean, so she could have said similar things, you know, we don't really know, but she's definitely had enough now for sure. And she's an interesting character. With question 7, we'll see a little bit more about her. In fact, we can look at 7 now. So this is taken from the ancient Greek translation. Here, you know, I did post the video or the handout for the people online. It's a couple different places. It's on the Facebook page and it's on the church website. If you go to resources and then Bible study, yeah, sorry, I forgot to mention that to you if you weren't aware, but also I will put up on the screen here. Oh, it's still downloading onto this computer. Oh, that's a pain. All right, well, then I'll go to the church website and I'll download it again. Sorry for the trouble. There we go. New tab. That works. So hopefully everybody can
Oh, there we go.
see it now. You see it?
Yeah, thank you.
Okay. Yeah, sorry I didn't have it up there. So then question 7, this is from the ancient Greek translation of Job 2:9. And this is an addition. And so what they do is they take Job's wife's speech and they add this. So she says, behold, I wait yet a little while, expecting the hope of my deliverance. For behold, thy memorial is abolished from the earth, even thy sons and daughters, the pangs and pains of my womb, which I bore in vain with sorrows. And thou thyself sittest down to spend the night in the open air among the corruption of worms. And I am a wanderer and a servant from place to place and house to house, waiting for the setting of the sun, that I may rest from my labors and my pangs, which now beset me, but say some word against the Lord and die. So that is their elaboration in this ancient Greek translation from about 150 BC. And I don't know why they do that. Maybe they just wanted to add a little drama, but I don't know. Why do you think that they added this to their translation?
He's not the only one who lost all of this.
Yeah, so to have a little sympathy, I mean.
And now she's lost her husband.
Yeah, so really, we don't think about it, but her suffering is about the same, right? So maybe it is a little one-sided, you know, this view of the book where the wife doesn't really get as much attention. So
if she lives and he died, she is hopeless and has nothing.
Yeah, yeah.
No way to, you know, her husband is not there to support her.
Yeah, she has nothing if he dies. So she's lost everything in a sense. The only thing she doesn't have to suffer is the painful sores. And if they're contagious, but I don't know.
We don't know.
Probably not, but you never know. So yeah, I thought that's a good insight and worth thinking about. But the book isn't written about her; it's written about Job, so it's focused on him. How about then question number 4? Yeah, why do you think God did not give Satan permission to harm Job's body at first? This is more speculation again, but maybe it will lead us to some useful observation. First, he's allowed to take away all his stuff. Now he's allowed to harm his body. Why does it happen in stages?
It itself wasn't specifically relevant to what Satan originally pointed out.
Yeah,
His
true.
original argument was, hey, you prospered him, you made him a wealthy and prominent person. That's why he loved. That's why he loves you. Take that away, and no curse you.
Yeah, so it kind of matches what Satan had said. Yeah, makes sense. And possibly other reasons, but no need to dwell on it. But then verse 3, we should dwell on, because this is a pretty important verse. I'll read it again. Then the Lord said to Satan, have you considered my servant Job? There is no one on earth like him. He's blameless and upright, a man who fears God and shuns evil, and he still maintains his integrity, though you incited me against him to ruin him without any reason. Why do I say this is such an important verse to keep in mind? How does God describe his own actions here?
He did this to Job.
Yeah, you incited me against him with no reason. I think if any of us were to say that about God, we'd blush. We'd hesitate to say something so crass. And yet, this is what God says about himself. You incited me against him with no reason. And so, later Job is going to say stuff like, God has made me his target. Like he's target shooting, and he's shooting his arrows at me. And it sounds kind of like a harsh thing to say, but then remember, God said this about himself, that from our perspective of people living on earth, sometimes our suffering does seem totally random. And that even though God always has a reason, we don't always see the reason. And from our perspective, it can seem pointless. And, if God can say it, then not that we should be crass about it. And Job's attitude was a bit arrogant later on in the book, but still, we got to be too careful about jumping on what he says. And then how is Job's response in question 6? How is it different in this section than last time? Last time, you have to probably look, I guess, he said, he fell to the ground in worship. He had shaved his head and all that. Naked I came from my mother's womb, naked I will depart. The Lord gave and the Lord has taken away. Blessed be may the name of the Lord be praised. That's what he said last time. How about this time?
I was sitting in the dust and ashes and scraping his oils with rock shards.
Yeah, so we don't get a response. Again, I mean, maybe he said it and it's not recorded, but it seems like that they probably would have. So he's not really saying anything, maybe because he's in too much pain. He does say one thing to his wife that's kind of similar to what he said before. Shall we accept good from God and not trouble? So now it's a little bit more of kind of a stoic response. It's no longer blessed be the name of the Lord. It's, hey, we got to accept good from God. If we take good from God, I guess we got to take trouble too, right? But it still ends in all this. He did not sin in what he said. Yes.
I mean, going back to his 2 quotations, both the first one, it almost kind of feels like you're saying like the stoic response almost kind of feels a little bit like he has to start, well, the Lord gave it, the Lord gave it away.
Yeah.
When you have the second one, you don't necessarily know the tone, but it seems like he's himself upping the tone a little bit and speaking to his wife.
Yeah.
Calling her foolish. Being a little bit stronger with it.
Yeah. His response to her, you're talking like a foolish woman, seems pretty strong. So he has not sinned in anything he said, and he still seems to be maintaining it. Some people, and I'm not saying we should or I agree with them, but some people will put a big emphasis on this. He did not sin in what he said, but maybe he was starting to have sinful thoughts. But that could be reading too much into it as well. It's
Big thoughts.
yeah. So it could be, but what we know is that he's still not saying anything against God, which was kind of Satan's wager. He'll curse you. And in fact, okay, here's what here's why I think Satan disappears in the book. Satan never once shows up again. They never reference him. He doesn't make an appearance at the end of the book. So even though he starts this whole thing out, he just is gone. However, I think there is a subtle indication that he's still working. Because what was his goal? What did he want to see Job do? Curse God. What was his wife's words? Curse God. I think he's working through his wife, and then he's working through the friends, and he's trying to bring Job down. It doesn't say it explicitly, but that's how Satan often works, is by using people to spread his false ideas to us. All right, so then that was all I had for this section. Did anyone have any thoughts or comments on this section?
Pastor, could you address in verse 3 where it says that, like, God is kind of blaming the devil? You incited me against him. What's the God-devil relationship there?
Well, basically, Satan, ha-Satan, or Satan means the accuser. And I guess that's part of what Satan does, that he brings up our sins. And I don't think that that's a role like he was given by God. I think it's when he just takes on himself. And so he did in the first chapter say, hey, this Job, he will take away, or he will curse you if you take away his stuff. And that was him inciting God. And God said, okay. Now, I think we have to realize we don't, this is putting it in language we understand. What is God's actual relationship with Satan? I mean, how do they interact?
Yeah.
Spiritual beings, so we have to realize there's plenty of room for there to be more than we can comprehend. But it's a pretty strong statement. I mean, it's surprising. I wouldn't say this about God just on my own. I'd feel like I was bordering on blasphemy. Well, but think about when Jesus said, my God, why have you forsaken me? I think if I had a member who I was visiting in the hospital and was somehow expressing that thought, but I didn't realize it was the same thought, and they were saying, God doesn't care about me, he's abandoned me, I'd say, that's never possible. But, he did abandon Jesus. I guess that's why he will never abandon us. But the same kind of thing where, God, strong language is used, but yet there's some truth to it. Yeah, I wish I could give a better answer, but I think it's meant to be a little bit jarring and to get us to think. And it's interesting when God explains himself to Job, he never refers to this. He never says, Job, if you only knew, this is why I did it. He just kind of ignores that. Any other quick questions on this section? I'd like to try to get a little further. So let's go on to 11 through 13, a shorter section. Any volunteer to read it?
I'll read.
Thank you.
When Job's three friends, Eliza and Termanite, Bildad the Shuhite, and Zophar the Naamite, heard about all the troubles that had come upon him, they set out from their homes and met together by agreement to go and sympathize with him and comfort him. When they saw him from a distance, they could hardly recognize him. They began to weep aloud, and they tore their robes and sprinkled dust on their heads. Then they sat on the ground with him for 7 days and 7 nights, and no one said a word to him because they saw how great his suffering was.
Yeah. So 3 questions. Oh no, we'll stop there. Then the next is chapter 3. So thank you. Good reading. And it is important going forward to realize, this is question 8, that these are good, devoted friends of Job. Because later we might think, they're just a bunch of jerks. But obviously, they really do care about the man. How do they demonstrate this?
They see his suffering and they take his body language. He's in the dirt, they're in the dirt. He's covered in dust, they're covered in dust. He's quiet, they're quiet.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so you didn't hear that. They cover themselves in dirt and do all the things he does when they see him. Other evidence that they truly care about him.
Sit there on the dirt with him for 7 days.
Yeah.
That's hard.
Yeah, I mean, it's camping, you know,
Yeah.
even in a backpack with a sleeping bag is uncomfortable. They're in the dirt with him, pretty humble. Yep, weeping, wailing.
Tearing their clothes.
Mhm. And of course, maybe it's just obvious, but the fact that they decided to go visit him at all. I mean, they apparently live in distant lands. I don't know if they were in the sorority together in college or how exactly they know each other, but you know, they're friend. I guess rich people tend to connect. Yeah, fraternity. What did I say? Oh yeah, not the sorority. No. Well, yeah, never mind that. So then 9, why do you think they react the way they do? Yeah, they care about him. So how about the weeping and the not saying anything? Okay, yeah, compassion. It said their goal was to set out to go sympathize with him and comfort him, is my translation. It's an older, yeah, same one you have.
Well, I took it to be help with just
Mm-hmm.
like he would be feeling it, but they
Yeah.
didn't actually have the physical.
Mm-hmm.
they felt it with him.
Yeah. Maybe.
Jenna was having a bad day and she asked me to come over. I wouldn't go over and yell cheerful and serve her half bubbly tea or something like that. I would just, if she's sitting there in a slump, I would slump right with her.
Yeah.
And if she's quiet, I'd be quiet. If she's learning to talk, I'd listen. If
Yep.
you started to imitate your friend.
Yeah, it's you want to imitate their mood and sympathize. It's hard, you know, going to the hospital. I don't know if any of you have ever done a hospital visit, but you know, you try to think of what you want to say on the way in the door, and sometimes it works fine. Other times you get there and you realize, you know, this is a totally different situation than you're envisioning, or it's like they're in so much pain, or they're so out of it, or they're so depressed, and you know, you kind of struggle to find the right thing to say. So not saying too much and sympathizing is certainly good. Now I'll let you know, this is maybe just my weird hang up that a lot of people will take, I think, maybe I'm wrong. I think people might take a little too much from this, that like, this tells us how we should, that this teaches us like how to be good friends. But I'll note that the next chapter starts with Job wanting to commit suicide. So they didn't necessarily, I don't know that it helped, but it certainly didn't hurt as bad as the stuff they said next. So should we, question 10, should we learn from their example and sit in silence with people in their suffering? Definitely, for sure. We should get down to their level. We shouldn't run our mouths too much, but I think we should give them some comfort as well, like that God loves you and is with you, and maybe not try to explain how God is going to use this. I think that's the thing we can fall into, is trying to immediately find the silver lining, you know, and people don't really want to hear that, especially right away. But you can still tell them God loves them. Jesus died for you. He'll be with you. Maybe even just read the 23rd Psalm, you know, that's the Lord is my shepherd. That's always appropriate. And then not say too much though. So I guess I would modify the advice to say that they could have said something a little bit comforting to him. But I don't know. I wasn't there, different culture. Maybe this was an awesome, perfect way to handle it. So any thoughts on this? The main thing is they are truly good friends. So and it's a reminder to us too, that when our friends have suffering, and even people who are best buddies, you know, we could still put our foot in our mouths, even with the best of intentions.
I know the taste of the soul of my sheep.
Yeah, you've done it
All
before.
too well.
Yeah, it's not hard to do. Pastors, of course, by necessity, will do this from time to time, and it's embarrassing. But you know, hopefully, you don't say anything too bad, but you realize it wasn't exactly what they needed to hear a little later. And your friends might do the same to you, and have some sympathy, you know, when they do that, or try to pardon them. But now we get our longest single section, chapter 3, verses 1 to 19. Now, this is a beautiful poetry, even though it's a very dark subject, and pretty much every verse is making the same point. So even though it's 19 verses, it's a very simple point Job is making, but it's worth reading all of it for the poetry's sake. So is there anybody who wants to read this section? A little more poetic, kind of a dark subject. He wishes he was never born. That's why I called this the worst birthday ever. Any volunteer? Oh, Peggy's got her, I think she had her hand up first. I just didn't see it.
No, I just did it, but yes, I'd be happy to. After this, Job opened his mouth and cursed the day of his birth. He said, "May the day of my birth perish, and the night it was said, a boy is born. That day may it turn to darkness. May God above not care about it. May no light shine upon it. May darkness and deep shadow claim it once more. May a cloud settle over it. May blackness overwhelm its light. That night may thick darkness seize it. May it not be included among the days of the year, nor be entered in any of the months. May that night be barren. May no shout of joy be heard in it. May those who curse days curse that day, those who are ready to rouse Leviathan. May its morning stars become dark. May it wait for daylight in vain and not see the first rays of dawn. For it did not shut the doors of the womb on me to hide trouble from my eyes. Why did I not perish at birth and die as I came from the womb? Why were there knees to receive me and breasts that I might be nursed? For now I would be lying down in peace. I would be asleep and at rest, with kings and counselors of the earth who built for themselves places now lying in ruins, with rulers who had gold, who filled their houses with silver. Or why was I not hidden in the ground like a stillborn child, like an infant who never saw the light of day? There the wicked cease from turmoil, and there the weary are at rest. Captives also enjoy their ease. They no longer hear the slave drivers shout. The small and the great are there, and the slave is freed from his master.
Yeah. So how would you summarize Job's points in this section?
He doesn't just wish he was dead, he wishes he was never born.
Yeah. Good point. He doesn't just want to die. He wishes he had never lived at all, especially in the first part there. Later, he says, I guess you're right, because then he says, or if not, starting in verse 16, or if I had to be born, why couldn't I have died right away? So the point isn't anything other than just he wishes his whole life had never been. Now, why would he feel that way? I mean,
He's in pain, he's suffering, he's lost everything.
yeah. So it's kind of like you thought you had it all, but then the pain of losing it is worse than the joy that or is stronger than the joy that you had from it. And, typically when you have children, part of your thinking about those children involves their future. And now that's totally gone for all of his children. And he's now filled with shame. And so, not that it's okay, but you can understand. I'll just keep moving. Okay, section 12, or question 12. This section is excellent poetry. Hebrew poetry is more about imagery and building tension than rhyme or rhythm. What images here are most striking to you?
One thing that sticks out is that a boy was conceived.
Yeah.
Not necessarily, it is life at conception.
Yeah, that's definitely here. The night of his conception.
Verse 3.
Yeah.
Boy is conceived on the night of his conception. It's anti-abortion.
Well, yeah, let's see, verse, wasn't that a bit later there?
Verse 3, the day of my birth, it says, at the night that said, a boy is conceived.
Really? Yours has conceived?
Yeah, mine has born.
Mine has born.
But mine is older.
Yeah, this is I got to check the Hebrew.
I didn't know, that just.
Yeah, I've read it in Hebrew, but I don't remember what the word is. That's interesting. So I thought it was conceived. Job 3 Hebrew. Huh, what do you guys have? Are you all using the NIV? Anyone have anything else online?
This is NIV.
Yes, CSB, and it's conceived.
Yeah, let's see. Hora Gaver. Yeah. Huh. Hora. I think it's conceived. I don't know why they say born. Interesting. So you have the new NIV, I have the old one. So mine says born, but it was corrected to conceived. So just so everybody knows. And that's what the CSB has too. Okay, yeah. Yeah, and I kind of remembered that, but then I didn't see it in the English here. So sure enough. And is there one about his? No, that's later. There's, oh yeah. Well, no, there's, why did, in 10 and 11, there's some stuff talking about the actual birth. All right. How about any other images that stick out at people?
Parental love and nurture, talking about being nursed and.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's, again, just good poetry.
The gentleness of it.
Well, is there a verse you're looking at in particular?
Just the one where it was talking about being nursed. Verse 12.
Oh yeah, why were there knees to receive me and breasts that I might be nursed? Yeah.
In the Old Testament, it's interesting. People, a lot of times, they don't say they're going to heaven, they're going to rest of their hands.
Yeah.
And it's, it just says, I would be asleep and at rest with kings and rulers and stuff.
Yeah, he said that a lot of times in the Old Testament, in fact, I don't know that anyone in the Old Testament ever says die and go to heaven. To be fair, I don't know if anyone says that in the New Testament either. They say die and be with the Lord, which is a little bit different. However, nevertheless, that you're anticipating question 13. There are a few verses here that raise questions about Job's view of the afterlife. What are they and how can we explain them? So especially maybe, the rulers of the earth, maybe I'll just point them out. So verse 13, now I would be lying at peace, I would be asleep and at rest. And there's lots of people there who are already at rest. The way how do I use the board for this? The Old Testament describes the afterlife in a different way, but it has the same conceptual framework. So these kids know weird things that they write. All right. So in the New Testament, because this is what we're used to, we'll start with that, even though it's second. You got a person who dies, and then they go to either, heaven or hell. Now, really, strictly speaking, that's a bit of an oversimplification because actually, when you die, we're with the Lord. And we're in heaven, but we're not really in the final heaven because we're waiting for the new heavens and the new earth, but we're in the blessed presence of God, whatever that's like. And we're waiting for our resurrection to be with our bodies. And they're waiting for a resurrection to then be sent to the final hell with their bodies. So we're kind of in a holding pattern, but that's the idea. And we conceive of these as sort of two different places. However, when the Old Testament person, when they talk about death, basically they talk about going to a place called Sheol, which means the grave, and everybody goes there. However, for believers, they are with God, and I'll just depict God as like a smiling person there, and they're with him. But for unbelievers and for the wicked, is how it's usually put, they are sort of being punished forever. They're being eaten by worms, they're miserable, they're experiencing the destruction they deserve. And so even though it talks about everybody goes to Sheol, some people have a positive experience there and some people have a negative experience there. So, there's still this idea of, your afterlife can be good. If you're with God, your afterlife is bad if you're wicked and apart from God, but they use different language. Oh, I just realized I don't know, did you pick that up at all or not really on the Zoom?
Well, I did because I double clicked on your screen. And
Oh,
then
okay.
it brought you up full screen.
Oh, did you hear me?
Yeah.
Oh, okay, good. Well, at least you saw that. So the main thing is they talk about Sheol as where everybody goes, but not everyone has the same experience in Sheol. So that's a sort of a quick way of talking about it. And that explains most of these statements. There's one other thing we can say. Just because Job's saying it doesn't mean that it's accurate. I mean, right now he's, I mean, what he's saying has been wrong so far. It's really not better for him that he was never born, you know, and he could be speaking out of turn. And so we got to be careful not to make too much out of anything he says in this particular dialogue. Yeah, and we could study the Sheol issue in much more detail and look at other Old Testament passages. But were there any other passages that even after saying that and looking at that still seem a little bit tough to reconcile or to make sense of? I think it's just poetry. I mean, captives enjoy their ease. They no longer hear the slave drivers shout. The small and the great are there. The slave is free from his master. How all our current social things will finally be done away with. It's just a nice image. So then, but I think we get the idea. Maybe we haven't answered every question you could have about it. But let's finish just so that way we'll successfully complete Job 3. And in verses 20 to 26, he takes a slightly different turn, although it's the same. Well, no, it's different. Now it's more of a philosophical thing. It's no longer about him. It's about human suffering in general. And this will happen throughout the whole book. They will start out talking about Job's specific situation and then get off onto some sort of philosophical question. So anybody want to read 20 to 26? And I can't see everybody's hand on the Zoom, so you can just start reading if you wanted to, if anybody there.
So right, everybody?
Sure, yeah, go ahead.
Why is light given to those in misery, and life to the bitter of soul? To those who long for death that does not come, who search for it more than for hidden treasure, who are filled with gladness and rejoice when they reach the grave. Why is life given to a man whose way is hidden, whom God has hedged in? For sighing has become my daily food, my groans pour out like water. What I feared has come upon me, what I dreaded has happened to me. I have no peace, no quietness, I have no rest, but only turmoil.
Yes. Yeah, I'm trying to remember that last verse in Hebrew. I had it on my wall for a while, kind of sarcastically, to describe my dissertation. It was lo shalachti, lo halavti, lo rachti, vayavo roges. And that's what it felt like writing a dissertation. It was miserable, and I never did complete it. But anyway, so let's. Huh? No. But I remembered that I wrote the verse down in Hebrew. Yeah, just to little note to myself. So then, how does his argument change in this section?
He's not just wondering about his misery and he should not have ever been born, but how can this happen to anybody who has misery?
Yeah, and why is a person who is going to have a miserable life given life? I mean, is it a wrong question to ask? I actually had one of my pastors say almost the same thing in a paraphrastic way. He was when I was studying to be pastor, I think we'd done a hospital visit or a shut-in visit, and we're just talking about why is it that some people seem like they're ready to go to heaven and God keeps them on earth for 20 more years, and they're immobile and they're not able to do much and they're in a lot of pain and their family doesn't come see them anymore, and another person just dies so young. And so it's okay to, I guess, note that and wonder, is he going further here? And is he questioning God? The next question, we can kind of discuss them both at the same time, is number 14. Do you think Job has crossed the line and sinned by cursing God with his lips here? Or maybe not quite cursing, but casting a question.
Yeah. He definitely questions.
So he's questioning, is it wrong? It's like, it's not wrong to question if you're questioning in faith and you're looking for the right answer, but there's a fine line there, but when that starts to become doubting and accusing, like I think my daughter asked me the other day, why doesn't God let everybody hear the gospel? Why are there people who've never heard it? And I don't think she was at that point doubting or questioning God. It had struck her for the first time. But yet you can't ask that question in a very doubtful, accusatory way. So what do you think here?
The key distinguishing factor is the difference between questioning God's action and questioning God's character.
Oh yeah, that's a good point.
So one is just like, why does this happen? Like, you explain this, or do you make this make sense to me?
Mm-hmm.
The other is, God, what the heck? Why are you doing this? What is wrong with you? This is happening. It's a difference between blaming and just wanting to make sense of the situation.
Yeah, if you didn't hear that, he said there's a big distinction between questioning God's actions and questioning God's motives. Because you can wonder why he does something, but if you start to think that he's a jerk, then that's really sinful, I think. Yeah. Okay. Anyone else as you look over this? Why those who are filled with gladness and rejoice when they reach the grave? Why is life given to a man whose way is hidden and God is hedged in?
I just think there's a subtle shift. It's a pity party for one, and he's having a pity party for anybody who is in general in a bad way.
Yeah. So he's starting to think about it in broader terms. And then at the end, I mean, we shouldn't skip over these lines when he describes how miserable he is. Sighing comes to me instead of food. My groans pour out like water. So he's not eating well. I mean, he's living in the dirt, He's covered in sores. He doesn't have anything left. What I feared has come upon me. I think that's interesting because don't we all kind of have this fear? Like, what if the worst happens? What if we lose everything? What if, and I mean, like, this is obviously there was some possibility. Like, what if there's a nuclear bomb? What if there's an EMP? What if we don't have food and we're not able to survive? And I mean, there's a whole industry built around that fear, right? And there's some truth to it. However, the odds of actually losing everything and losing it at once, just like Job loses here, is usually you don't think that's really going to happen, but it did. So what I dreaded, he says, has happened to me. And so now he's just in constant agitation. I don't know if you've ever been in a situation like that where really you couldn't rest, you couldn't be quiet. You wanted to stop thinking about a problem. You wanted to get over it or move on, but you just couldn't because it just consumed you so bad. But that's definitely where he's at in verse 26.
Describes my daily life.
Oh, okay.
I can't even sleep sometimes. I can't shut stuff off.
Yeah. And he's...
I'm not this miserable, but...
Yeah. So then any other thoughts on this argument? So the question has he sinned? And I think it's here a bit ambiguous. I mean, you could read this in a way that is not sinful, or you could read it in a way that is sinful. But keep in mind, as we do a preview now, next week, we're going to see Eliphaz respond. And that's the first response of the friends. And they take this really badly. They're offended by this response he gives, and they are going to correct him. And they're going to set him straight. And Eliphaz will do it more indirectly. And then as Job continues to resist, when they're kind of indirectly at first accusing him of being evil and doing something wrong, and when that doesn't work and he resists, they get more and more direct, and the confrontation gets more heated. And it's good to remind ourselves, maybe I'll start with this next week too, but here's what God will say at the end, because if we were to just open up Eliphaz and read him, I'd say for 70 to 80% of it, we'd read and we'd say, yeah, that's right. Yeah, that's right. That's good. Yeah. Can a mortal be more righteous than God? No way. Yeah, you're right, Eliphaz. We would take his side. And yet at the very end, he said, God says to Eliphaz and the friends, I am angry with you and your two friends. This is on the handout. I should have that there for you. Except I don't know where I put it. Oh, there it is. I'm angry with you and your two friends because you have not spoken the truth about me as my servant Job has. So we should keep that in mind. And then they make an offering. And then again, he says, you have not spoken the truth about me as my servant Job has. 2 times. So Job, even though he was maybe a little sarcastic and his tone wasn't always the best, he spoke the truth. He's honest with what's happening. The friends are trying to just paper over the problem and act as though it didn't exist, and it must just be that Job is a wicked person. So it's going to get a lot more complicated once we get into the dialogue. The dialogue, by the way, goes from chapter 4 to chapter 27. So I don't know if we'll quite read all of it, but we'll at least do the first round and maybe the second round. And I think the third round, you can, at that point, there's really nothing new said. So we might skip a few chapters there. Any final thoughts or questions there and from the Zoom crowd or anybody else? All right, well, thank you for attending and blessings. I'm trying to keep it short so we don't have the longest discussions, but that's because it's the evening and I know people are tired and, you know, some people go to bed by 8, so we keep that in mind. But blessing, if you need anything, those of you who we don't see live, just be in touch, but it is great to see everybody. God bless. Take care.
Bye-bye.
Yeah, see you.
Good night, everyone.
Yeah, good to see you, Jim. Both Jims.
Yeah, there we go.